It takes time to build a system and it feels very overwhelming. I think back to when I first started creating SOPs and I didn't know where to begin. I didn't even know what to Google. I didn't even know how to come up for help. So today I'm gonna do 2 things that I wish I had when I began creating systems. My favorite thing is connecting with you. I make this show for you, and with many times of your help, I'm creating alongside you. So for those of you who answer questions or give me feedback, advice on Instagram, I want to say thank you, shout out. These shows are created by all of us, and it is deep appreciation. On that note, we're going to get like up close and personal with something that I haven't really got nitty gritty. I talk about it, but today it will not be for the faint of heart. Okay. We're talking about building systems. Now, before you stop watching this video, before you stop listening, I want us to take very special attention of the idea that if you feel you are overwhelmed, if you feel like you couldn't take a 3-week break without your business falling apart, if you feel that you are spending a lot of money and barely making any profit and all you do is work, I'm not a mind reader, but there is a very good chance, like 99%, it's because we don't have the systems in the business that allow the business to be the business other than another child in your life. Oh, are we starting there? Yes, we are. So I know that talking about systems is not fun and it is not sexy, but I am telling you, this will be the thing that allows you to work on the business, not in the business. This allows your business to actually grow. Like if you went viral, if you got featured, if something just hit the ground running out of the gate, you had an influx of inbound, the system is established so that you can grow and scale. That, my friend, is what my main focus is on. I've worked with too many entrepreneurs who are like, oh yeah, I have a $5, $6, $7, $8 million business. And when I actually go through their P&Ls and when I actually do a diagnostic and when I actually look at the business as if I were going to buy the business, I'm like, oh, this is like a 3% profit margin and you are so much tethered to the business. Oh my God, you have a business, but at what cost? So today, I'm talking about a lot of experience, a lot of things. So I want to start because people were asking questions and giving feedback on Instagram. So shout out. I'm going to start with an Instagram question from Alex. He writes, what's the biggest mistake you see people repeatedly making that is holding them back? I thought that's a really great place for us to start. So I want to start here that systems is something that we think we could do later. Like once the business is really successful, once we hire 3 or 4 people, it'll allow us to go back and build those systems. But I am telling you, it will be very difficult to hire and retain people without a system. So when he says what's holding them back, if you want your business to grow and if you really want it to scale, like beyond your wildest dreams, you're going to need systems, really good systems. So when Alex asked his question, this was my answer. There isn't a perfect time. There isn't a perfect way. There isn't a perfect idea. This is the time. You'll figure out a way, make the idea exist, make it better as you learn. Every day you wait, you rob yourself of building what you were destined to. Welcome to the Jasmine Star Show, where we empower 7-figure business owners to scale their business to 8 figures and beyond. And today we are talking about scaling in terms of what it actually means. And friends, that is with systems. So we are going to get into the nitty gritty of it. We are going to be giving you an inside look at how we create them. We're going to give you an inside look at one of our exact systems because I want you doing this without any excuses. So recently I had a conversation with an entrepreneur and she's built a $3 million business. It's pretty dang impressive, pretty freaking awesome. But she was still in the business. She was so much entrenched with the day-to-day that she couldn't work on the business. And so what we quickly discovered was that she hadn't earned the right to work herself out of parts of her business. You have to earn it. You have to earn your right to work yourself out of that part of the business. When we were creating a sales department on behalf of Jasmine Star Brands, I actually had to start the department. I actually had to start taking sales calls. I actually had to get coaching and feedback on what was working and what was not working. Then we had to create SOPs, standard operating procedures. This is how it was done. Until those things were in place, I hadn't earned the right to move myself out of that. Now, not everybody believes in that. Listen, I'm a scrappy, bootstrapped founder. I have built multiple businesses. I sit, advise, and I invest in other businesses. And I'm like, you got to know all the pieces of the business so well that you can be able to smell when somebody's not doing a good job. Smell when they're cutting corners. Smell if they're trying to hoodwink you. So I understood that she hadn't earned the right to work herself out of the business, but she's not alone. In fact, Rachel asked a similar question on Instagram. And yes, I've asked for her permission. She wrote, I'm struggling to scale my business. How do I climb out of the work to have space to scale? And I responded on Instagram with the following. Spicy take. You have to earn the right to climb out of the work. How? You build systems. Period. True scale is training someone on your system so well that they could do it without you. That's how you get to work on the business and not in it. A true leader empowers employees with 4 lets. 1, let me show you how. 2, let me watch you do it. 3, let me know if you have questions. And 4, let me trust you can do it alone. That 4-let process was taught to me by a woman by the name of Teresa Lowe, and it has radically changed my business. The 4 lets to system building. After I wrote that, I was struck with the realization that it takes time to build a system and it feels very overwhelming. I think back to when I first started creating SOPs and I didn't know where to begin. I didn't even know what to Google. I didn't even know how to come up for help. So today I'm going to do 2 things that I wish I had when I began creating systems. Number 1, I'm going to show you one of my team's SOPs, like our actual one. And then number 2, I'm going to share a tutorial on how we create an SOP from scratch. So you're going to be able to see the entire process. Now, before I walk you through a sample SOP for our project management standards, I want to point out that we use Notion for big projects. Like Notion is essentially like the Bible of our business. This is how things do it. These are how things run. This is where we house all of our company information. But like projects, organizations, now we have our SOPs. We also use Asana, which is a task management software where we're keeping track of tasks in motion. So we'll have our SOP in Notion, and then in Asana, when we get into a project, we know who's doing what, when is it due, and when is the outcome, and when will that project be complete. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to create a new lead magnet, well, the SOP would be in Notion. Like how we do that, how do we create a new lead magnet? That's going to be in Notion. But we will create an Asana template that says new opt-in template. And then what our project manager will do will go in and start plugging in all the tasks that need to be done by people specific to the team. So what I'm about to show you right now is an SOP for our project management standards. So here's the goal. I'm going to show you this video. If I had hired you to do project management, you can go into our SOP and see exactly how it's done. Our goal and standard for an SOP is if I dragged you in off the street, our SOPs are so good that you could just follow it step by step. I know what to do. This is how they do it at Jasmine Star Brands. That's the goal here. So I think if you're just listening to this podcast, it would probably be best if you're watching on YouTube so you can actually see the layout and all of the tabs and how it's organized, but to each their own. Let's dive into that video now. Let's take a look at a sample project management standard SOP. What you're looking at right now is what? Oh, here's a summary. A guide for project managers and managers when assigning tasks to your teams. What you'll see here is all of our SOPs follow the same way that an SOP is created. And don't worry, I'm going to get into a video that shows you how we've standardized the process of SOPs, but I wanted to give you a quick overview of what an average SOP looks like. They all start off the same way, a summary. Why is this SOP important? And then you'll see 4 drop-down menus. We always include an objective. Because many team members receive tasks from multiple people, we use a standard process for project management to create consistency and ensure that everyone receives tasks in a similar way. Within this document, you'll find the standard system that we use at Social Curator. Now, what you're looking at is a sample from Social Curator, but for every single organization within the holding company, you have your own SOPs. I just happened to pull one from Social Curator. We also denote who it's for. Who is this SOP for? Well, it's for project managers and managers. There are some divisions in the organization where you don't have a project manager, so in that case, a manager would be using it. But in most cases, you have a project manager. Now, what you'll see here is process quick links. This right here is a hyperlinked, think of this as an index or a table of contents. So if I logged in and I really just wanted to know how much lead time am I looking for when I'm assigning tasks to copywriters, I can click this section and be taken to that. But for the sake of this video, I want to show you all of it in its entirety. I will try to keep it as quick and high level as possible because the next video will get into the details of how we create it. But I wanted to show you a real life functioning and breathing SOP. So What you'll see here is a large font that says detailed process, and then a somewhat smaller font right below it that denotes a single new section. So you'll see how this particular section, it looks like a little bit brown in nature. That's for us creating a way for us to standardize the way the SOPs are working. And if what you'll notice is, see how it says Asana project formatting? What you'll see here, it's hyperlinked. Asana project formatting. So that's how we are able to create this index with clickable links. And we'll show you that in another video coming up. Okay. So what you'll see here is you will see an exact breakdown of things that are going to be really important. We will also include things like a screen grab or a video that somebody can watch. And in most of these sections, what we want to do is we want to include a section with a little light bulb, and that is including like the main point or why we are doing it in this way. As long as people understand the why, it makes our SOPs so much more powerful. Here again is a section, managing a project and creating templates. We get into all of the specifics. We will include a screenshot, a photo, or a video to help somebody walk through and understand it correctly. Here again, we firmly believe in explaining why this is important. Another section is using project or task templates. We explain the importance of a template. We tell people where they can find their template in Asana. Basically, what you're looking at with an SOP is exactly how we do and how we start something. This is your go-to, maintain and contain it all. Here, what we'll do is we'll include everything that somebody might need visually to understand what it is they're being asked to do. And we also are here again, completing with more examples and other fine points, minimizing errors through templates. We'll give an example of how we standardize the ways that our templates are created. So what you'll see here, this is a specific section of how we standardize the way that tasks are created. We want to give a lot of information. I don't know if you've ever experienced, if somebody's always asking you questions, oh, but what about this? Or what about that? It's probably because the task didn't contain enough information for somebody to connect the dots on their own. So we want to make sure that all of our tasks have a lot of information so that people can go through, get it done, and not have to ask their managers or division directors what's needed. So we include things like context, instructions, and then very detailed information around what it's for. This minimizes a lot of questions on the team and a lot of wasted time just waiting around for somebody to answer. Here is another main section that's going to be hyperlinked, task creation. We literally walk through how to create those tasks. The tasks should sit in a project. You name your task clearly. You provide all of the information. You provide context. You give clear instructions. You include the action item and you include the deliverable. All of that information is in the task itself. We also include due dates. Sometimes due dates are fixed and sometimes they're not. So we want to make sure, how are we standardizing these tasks and when they should be done? So we have a team that works for around the United States. We have a virtual team. So for us, it might not be pertaining to you, but for us, due dates indicate that the task assignee should complete it by 11:59 p.m. their time zone. So if I'm a project manager, I need to make sure that if my teammate needs the task on Tuesday, and it's dependent on somebody else's task to be completed, well, then I need to make sure that that task is assigned on Monday so that when their co-creator partner wakes up on Tuesday, that task is ready to go. Well, for this particular project, we have lead times for things that are needed for deliverables. So as a project manager or a manager, we want to standardize how much time somebody can be expected to be given to create what it is they need. So if it's copywriting, well, if it's going to take 2 days for workbook, I need to make sure that that's coming into it. If we're creating emails or email funnels, we're going to be needing a lot more. We need about 2 weeks for that. Graphic designs, well, if we're going to have a keynote that needs to be graphically designed and it's going to be over 75 slides, we need to give our graphic designer 4 to 5 days. These are all standardized ways for us to communicate and assign those tasks. Here again, we're going to get into big sections like task communication, meeting time tracking tasks for those tasks that it pertains to, creative projects. Creative projects all tend to look different based on the type or project or the thing that's being created. This is why it's so important for us to be able to give our project manager a lot of details around what type is the project, how much time we should be given. Now, each one of our tasks, we have KPIs, key performance indicators, to denote how well the team is executing. And so what happens is we judge our team on KPIs. If they have to go back and revisit or refine their tasks, we're keeping track of how many times they have to revise. Our goal is for somebody to have 0 redesign or revision tasks. That's always the goal. Now, if we see somebody who is consistently getting 2 or 3 revision tasks, it means, number one, the system has to get better at explanation, or that team member needs to be revised or possibly put on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, to see why they keep on getting stuck or what is not clear on our end with the signing of the tasks. There you go. That is a complete overview, a high level of what a real SOP looks like inside of one of our businesses called the Social Curator. We're going to dive into another video with a great detail of how you can create an SOP on your own in a second. After watching that video, you might be wondering, well, how? How did you make that SOP? I'm so glad you asked, because we're going to take our level of geekdom to expert level geek as we build out our systems. So what I'm about to show you is how we made our template SOP. And this video was created 4 years ago, and it is something we still use. And that to me is a sign of a very good system. We're not constantly updating. The system was dialed in. This is our main video that we use to help people coming in creating new SOPs. And so what you're going to hear is you're going to hear the voice of our COO, Jade. She's going to be walking you through how we create SOPs across all arms of our business. Now, there's one last thing to note. In this video, you're going to hear Jade refer to the word RACI, or the acronym RACI, R-A-C-I. Now, RACI is a matrix for clarifying roles and responsibilities within an organization. I don't know who invented RACI. It's not our own. It's just something that we embodied. I want to share with you that we use RACI to be ultra clear on who's responsible for what. Right? Sometimes it's easy on teams to be like, I thought you had it. I thought you had it. No. With RACI, the buck stops with a certain group of people on the team. So let's go through that acronym so you get on the same page. RACI begins with R, and that stands for who is responsible. Who has an Asana task to complete? In the entire flow, who has a task? Who is responsible for what? A is who is accountable. Who is in charge of achieving the outcome? Most likely, this is going to be a manager or a division director. They're going to be accountable. We want a particular result. Who are we going to say, why didn't that happen? Or congratulations, job well done, it happened. The third letter is C, and that is for who's consulted. Who needs to be consulted in achieving the outcome? And lastly, I, who is informed? Who needs to be informed about the outcome when that project is done? So you're going to see Jade refer to RACI, and I just wanted to let you know in advance. Now, before I get to sharing her video, if you know of somebody who's trying to grow their business, or who works too much in the business, or wants to scale to 8 figures, and they're looking about a way to strategically work on the business and not in the business, share this episode with them. We want to make sure that we're all growing collectively together and making big strides towards it. Thank you for doing that. Now let's turn it over to Jade's video.
This video is going to walk through the standard operating procedures area that is found in Notion, and it's going to walk through how to create an SOP using the SOP template that we have here. So first and foremost, when you come into Notion and you're in the workspace for standard operating procedures, it's going to look something like this. If you're watching this at a later time, some things may look a little different in here, and we may have a lot more that's filled out at the time that you're seeing this. But the overall structure is that things are separated here on this, what I'll call maybe the home screen for SOPs, by manager. So each manager is going to have their own SOPs that they're responsible for documenting and updating here. So the first thing that I will mention is I did add a couple of different sub segments within a manager's department, I guess. And that was just to kind of illustrate how we can organize these a little bit better. You do not have to use what I have designated here as the heading of this. But for example, with the community, we may have 4 or 5 processes that are for the events that happen in the community. And then we might have 3 or 4 things that are just admin related for the community. So that's the idea here, is we may have a few processes that are related under a certain category. So that being said, what you're going to do when you want to come in and create an SOP for yourself, or for your department, what you'll do is come up to the top here where we have a template. And all you will need to do here is just, if you click on the, I don't know what this is called, the 6 little dots here, you can duplicate this. And then once this template is duplicated, it'll be ready for you to just drag down wherever you want it to go, and then you can click into it and start filling it out and customizing it for you. So I'm going to delete that for now, and we'll just click into what the template looks like here, and I'll just walk through kind of like the anatomy, I guess, of what our SOPs will look like. And I'm just going to verbally walk through like the sections of this and some of the key points. So first thing that you'll do is you will customize the name of it. So for whatever your process is, let's just say I was doing this for like creating a landing page. That's what I would probably call it, is creating a landing page. And then what I want to do is have just a 1-sentence summary of what you're going to learn in this. Like, what will you walk away knowing how to do? And I want to make sure we keep it to 1 sentence, because we do have a place to like further elaborate on that, just right down here. So it's just giving you the gist of it. So if someone clicks in here and they're wanting to know, did I get the right thing? They'll get it with this first sentence. Then we have these 4 different toggle areas here. And basically, we want to fill out what the objective is. So of this process that we complete, like for Social Curator, it's something that happens in Social Curator. What is it? What does it contribute to? Why is it important? Just give a little bit more context here of like, what is this thing that we do? This could be like a 2 or 3 or 4 sentence paragraph here, but it's like, what is the objective? What's the outcome of this particular process? And then if we look at who, this is where I've outlined RACI here. So for this particular process, then you would want to basically call out here who the responsible parties are, who is accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. So let's, just because this is most familiar to me, let's talk about like creating an opt-in where, I just mentioned creating a landing page. That is part of creating an opt-in. But if we were doing this whole process for creating an opt-in right here, I would list out all the responsible parties for like who has like a task actually within my current Asana project to do a thing, who's responsible for completing something, directly to make this thing come to life. So when I would list those, I say people, but I mean role names that are involved with this. We want to keep these evergreen. We do not want to have to be going in here and editing things, as new team members come on, as old team members leave, anything like that. So you would name the role names that would be involved with this. So I would have a copywriter, a graphic designer, a marketing strategist, that type of thing that would be listed out here. And then as far as who's accountable for this, it's like when we think of accountability, I mean, this just goes back to what we try to implement as far as RACI within the company as a whole. But, who is accountable for making sure that this opt-in, meets standards, is done on time, is, all of those things, like the buck stops with them. Who's accountable for it? And then within your process, who might be consulted and who might be informed. So for this, you do have the option of, if there isn't anyone who's consulted as part of the process, then you can just say NA, no one. Don't leave it blank. Just denote that no one is. And then as far as who's informed, for this particular example, I would actually add in there that some members of our customer success department are informed. They do have a task in our process to like kind of test the opt-in, and that's for multiple reasons, but moreover, it's for informing them. So I do want to give it like a clear distinction there. I don't know that we can use a hard and fast rule of like, if you have a task in Asana, you are responsible for something. Well, they have tasks in this particular project, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're responsible for making this thing happen. They are informed through that task that's currently in the project. So I hope that made sense. And then what we want to do is list out any KPIs that are maybe measured as a result of this process, or that's part of it right here. And then the frequency. I think this is a good highlight to note here. If someone's coming in for the first time and they want to see this, it's just good for them to know how often do we do this thing. If this is for the Social Curator newsletter, it's this process happens weekly. So that is what you would be filling out for all of these toggles right up here. Quick process links. So what I have done here is that I've inserted a table of contents. So that way, as someone's going through here, maybe they're in their training stages and they've already been through it once, but then they have to go remember how to do that thing. They'll have quick links, and it's kind of an outlined format right here where they can scroll down to that particular section of the process that we're going to detail out here. So this should, as you start updating this or deleting things and using this template to create your SOP, these will automatically update up here. And I'll kind of talk about the formatting that's required in order for it to populate properly right there. So here is where, I'm sorry, let me back up. There's essentially nothing you really have to do with this section right here. You can just skip over it and then you start editing this right here. So detailed process, this will stay the same. This heading should really stay the same right here. It's your subheadings that you'll end up tweaking. So, excuse me, this video that I'm recording right here, when you come into this template, you're actually going to see it populated right here. And so the point is with that, if you do have a video that's been recorded for your process, include it at the very top. That way, someone has it, they know that it's available to them if they want to watch it and, follow along as someone completes the steps. But I will say, as a general rule of thumb, videos just don't tend to get updated. As we update our processes, if you've created something that's 20 minutes long, that's pretty cumbersome to come in and actually update in here. So the goal for the SOPs really is to be able to have things in written form, step by step. You come in here, you make a couple of adjustments to it, and you're not re-recording an entire video if a few little steps have changed. So when I say that if you have a video, it goes up here at the top. Yes, it does, but it's not required to have a video for the SOP. In fact, the better method of doing this will be to actually have things written out step by step and not need to have a supporting video for something. So I'm recording this because this is a new thing for all of us, and this is giving a lot more context around the process of SOPs that technically I would probably go through in a meeting or something, maybe with a new manager, something like that. So I am going to add it in here because it provides that. But as we're talking about just completing the steps and doing the things, let's actually try to just have that all in written form. Okay, enough of that. So as we go on here and we look at the use of these headings, so in order for them to populate up here correctly, you will want to use an H2, a heading number 2 for these. So you can see if I highlight this over here, I've selected H2. And if you have an H2, this should be highlighted all using brown. So if I come over here, I can hit color and I can hit brown background. And the entire thing, the entire width of this should be highlighted with that background color. And that is just, I'll get into some of this formatting down here where I actually explain that. But I want these to all be very consistent across the company. So this is kind of the formatting that we've decided on going forward with this. Okay, and then along with that formatting, an H2 will have a divider underneath it. So you just hit the plus button, and then you can add in a divider right here. Okay, so here I'm saying that your process should be sectioned off using headings so that you're making it easy to digest. And so when you're deciding like what headings should I be using here, you can kind of think about like sections or milestones that may already be in an Asana project for you, or just if you're kind of designating like a little mini process or a little mini segment of this process, that's a really good place to use a heading. Just kind of think like, where is it going to be useful for someone to have like a quick link to know how to do like that portion of this. Okay, and then if you have subsections, you can feel free to use an H3 with that. And that will obviously end up like indenting underneath here. So you can see how the formatting is going to work for the quick links. And this one would not have a divider underneath it, and it will not have a background color. The next thing that you can do is you can insert screenshots if they like support showing what it is that you're trying to tell somebody to do. Okay, let's move on, and I'll cover a little bit more with formatting here. So I'll reiterate that there's three main sections. There's the summary section up here, the quick links, and then the whole detailed process itself. Those are designated with all caps, and really they should be the only headings that use all caps so that we maintain uniformity with all of our SOPs. They'll have a divider section underneath, and they should have the entire column with highlighted with the color brown. We will not be choosing a cover photo up here for any of like the individual SOPs. You can choose an icon of your choosing though, to put that right up there at the top. And then the goal with this is to communicate the whole picture for how to do something step by step. So you're going to want to start from the beginning, and it is going to feel very granular, but you're going to be telling someone like if they need to go log in somewhere to do the thing, then you need to tell them like, log in, and here's the URL that you're logging into in order to do this. You'll be telling them like what buttons to click and where. It is going to feel like a bit granular. The other thing that I want to note is please reference your already existing Asana tasks for a lot of this, because in your tasks, you may have a lot of this background, or you may have like the step-by-steps that are supposed to be completed. So don't reinvent the wheel. Like if you're documenting something for a project or process that's already created, like definitely pull in some of those descriptions and the steps that are already outlined in tasks. But with that, you're probably going to be telling someone a little bit more detail here in the SOP. For instance, if Paige has a task to go and design Instagram stories for an issue, then we're probably not telling her in a task, go log into Canva to do this. So that's something that you would include in the SOP. The next thing I want to touch on here is explaining the why. I think that with SOPs, like they can feel very just step-by-step, robotic, this is what you do, but it's very useful to give context as to like why that is important, why you would actually do this, or why we do this, or, another little like tidbit of information. So if you want to add something like that, go ahead and add a call out. That way it's just kind of like a separate little formatting feature, I guess you want to say, where it's not part of the steps, but it goes right along with it, and we can explain why something is important. And to add a call out, again, to add a lot of these things, you could just come in here to this plus button, and then there's a call out right here. Okay. And then when to add a process within a process. So there will be instances where there's something that's just like a process in and of itself. And so it is going to be a little bit up to managers and your discretion as to like, well, what's the cutoff point? Do I need to have a separate process and I just insert that in here into like the grand scheme of things? You certainly can do that. So for my example, I would probably go through and I would outline most of how to create an opt-in in this whole process document right here. But the part of how to create a landing page and create the campaign and how to connect everything, that's a process in and of itself. So when I would get to that phase here of explaining like, okay, at this point, now we're creating the landing page and doing all this, please reference this process. And then what you would do is you'd be inserting the page in here, like we did on the home screen right here. You would be inserting this link. So for mine, I would probably have landing page creation would be right here. And I would be able to, that would already be created as its own SOP. And so when I was creating my SOP for how to do the whole process of the opt-in, I'd be inserting that link wherever appropriate within the step-by-step instructions here. I hope that makes sense. If you need help, let me know. Okay, and then the last part of this is illustrating steps. So it will be very useful and is much appreciated for the reader to be able to, look at some quick bullet points or even a numbered list. We can use either one of these if you want to segment things that way and format that way. But I will say I'd like to refrain from using checkboxes. And the reason for that is just someone isn't going to be coming in here and like checking things off. They shouldn't be anyways. We want to not have that happen so that these can be, evergreen and they're not messy, and it's not like a tool that we're using in that sense. So it's just a reference document, and it's not like they are going to be having like this checklist that they complete every time and they'll be checking a box. So I'd like to refrain from using that, but let's use bullets and a numbered list whenever we can, just to make it easy on the reader. So I think that is pretty much everything with how our SOPs will be structured. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
I wanted to state again that this podcast was not for the faint of heart. It was really geeky. It was nitty gritty. It was how we do our systems. Do I think that we are like the best way, only way? No, but we have found this way to be highly effective within the brands and within our team. I created this podcast and I created this video of behind the scenes because I wish I had it when I had started. And so my goal has always ever been, can I leave the industry better or different than how I found it, with hopes that other people can achieve twice the results in half the time? Yeah, it is. And so for those of you who engage on social media, for those of you who share this podcast episode, for those of you who share it in stories or share it with a friend, I want you to hear me say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We do this together and we're able to change the trajectory of our businesses and lives because each of us has each other's back. What a beautiful place to live and dwell. Thank you from my heart to yours. Thanks for watching The Jasmine Star Show.